This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
John is here with us, former member of Parliament, and he joins us, a teacher extraordinaire, as we say. Bwana Sosion, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you doing?
I'm doing good.
Karibu sana.
Asante sana.
Also in the company of Dr. Barak Muluka. He's here with us as well. Good morning, Doc.
Good morning. How are you?
Fine, thank you.
And Dennis. Good to see you. And the SG. I seem to associate my good friend Sassion more with teaching.
Teaching.
With Nat.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, and then of course all these others.
And I think she should introduce me as a veteran educator and teacher.
Pudding. Plum on the pudding.
Veteran educator.
Oh, I beg your pardon. Joining us to my left is Wilson Sosion, veteran educator, veteran teacher of grand gravitas standing.
I grew up in school when he was SG.
Oh, there you go. Of Nuts, right?
Yes.
Did you benefit?
Oh, yes, I did. I wish you continued.
But there's a time for
Still
everything.
goes.
There's a time for everything under the sun.
One's a teacher, always a teacher.
When you got into politics, things changed.
Well, the political ecosystem determines everything.
Everything.
So it's important to be in that space. It's not an easy space, but it's important to be there.
You know, Julius Nyerere went into politics and became president. But up to now, people still refer to him as Mwalimu.
Exactly.
Yes.
Walimu Julius Nyerere, they do indeed. It would be nice to get an interpretation of a proverb that we're going to share this morning. We're in Botswana this week, and we're listening to what the Wahanga of Botswana had to say. You've probably heard something like this in other circles before, in other cultures, other languages, but this is what it says, this proverb. The child who is not embraced by the village will burn it down to feel its warmth. The child who is not embraced by the village will burn it down to feel its warmth. I'll give you a minute to frown, Dr. Muluka. We hear from Wilson. What are your thoughts about that? How would you interpret that?
I think it's about inclusion. And it's about people who maybe want to be included, and if they're not being included by the village could be society writ large. For example, here in 2023, we were talking about inclusivity, and we were seeing lots of fires and pyres and all that, but they disappeared last year in August because the child was impressed by the village. That is an example, an interpretation, and an application.
There you go. One association?
Yes, indeed. A child who is not impressed by the village is one who is excluded, treated as an outcast, and therefore cannot even sit near a fireplace. You'll have to be pushed to stay very far. So fundamentally, you must light your own fire to warm yourself. and so, literally speaking, it means anybody who is excluded should struggle to be included. You fight for your space.
You do.
Yeah, in a resilient manner. And life is a struggle. And that proverb also relates to the law of the jungle. Survival for the fittest.
For the fittest.
So the stronger one survives, and if you are weak, you will be decimated. So you must struggle to be strong. And so
yet,
life then is a struggle. So even don't complain about exclusion. You are the one excluding yourself.
The teacher is
Can
not exactly right, because when he takes us to the jungle and talks about the law of the jungle, it was already expounded upon in the 1500s by Thomas Hobbes. Later on, other law of the jungle scholars like John Locke, Jean-Jacques Rousseau, that the Leviathan then comes to level the jungle.
Level the playing field, as it were.
You know, Barak Muluka is a permanent resident of the social world, and and I'm a permanent authority of empirical science. I'm talking about empirical science.
Right.
There's no empirical science without the social
empirical
world.
science doesn't change.
The laws
and empirical
of
science
social
has
space.
been applied in the social world.
Absolutely not.
And to imagine
so-
that we have not even begun the conversation.
If
You
you are
know-
excluded, if you are excluded, struggle to get your space.
Social science was
So
defining
if the village
an
excludes
atom.
you,
It was
struggle to get
defining
your
an
space and
atom
light your fire.
as an element that cannot be divided further by any known chemical or scientific means. And that has since changed. It has since been split. So laws, just in empirical science, just like in social science, do not exist in stasis.
Okay, so perhaps we can then ask and start to go into this conversation this morning because it's necessary for us to do. With every event poses an opportunity for us to have a look at what is going on in the nation, whether it be from the political, social justice sphere. There will be certain things that will be said and or done that would require us to then say, okay, let's double click here and, ask questions in a solution finding position. The Devolution conference is what is grabbing everybody's attention this week. And things have been said. A couple of days ago, somebody said to us, why are we doing this? Why are we wasting money to go to Homa Bay? Why are we wasting resources? Why are we wasting time? If everybody were just to look in the direction of the Constitution and try and just follow the law, we would not need to do this and try to remind ourselves. Others say, well, it's necessary for us to huddle together. In any great sporting activity, you will have halftime when everybody will go to the locker room and they will say, let's have a conversation about how our strategy needs to change, or we maintain what we are doing and let's stick on this path. Many would say that's what the Devolution conference is. It's essentially the huddle in this football match or in this basketball game where we say we need to regroup, guys, and make sure that our strategy is working. Devolution has an impact on what is happening around the country today. But one of the things that came out of the Devolution conference yesterday is towards corruption. The president very clearly said, you know what? I have been made aware that there is grandstanding corruption that's taking place in the committees of Parliament. And I'm asking you to stop this, because how do we do our job? Would that point to a now look towards making sure that things are streamlined? We'll start with you.
One, devolution is a new concept in the country. It's a grand one that was meant to be decentralize services and create equity in terms of development and stimulate real transformative development at the grassroots, looking at the functions assigned to devolved units under Schedule 4 of the Constitution, ranging from agriculture to water infrastructure and health and so forth. And so actualizing these transformative programs at the devolved units is key. But then 15 years down the line or 12 years down the line, there's a lot to reflect over, and maybe it is time the country does an audit of implementation programs of devolution. And therefore, the Devolution Conference is a platform of sharing experiences and reflecting. And some counties have developed faster than others, depending on the leadership, depending on the culture and programs that they have. But then within the entire ecosystem of devolution, corruption was also devolved. And so corruption remains a challenge to the general development of this country, whether at devolved units or whether at the national. And the statement by the president, to me, is quite welcome. And I think a lot needs to be done beyond calling out Parliament as an entity that deals with devolution. We must deal with corruption cross-board. And it has reached a time this country should fully criminalize and punish corruption. It must be done.
How?
It must be done. criminalized through legislation. What has the Asian Tigers done? We talk about Singapore, that have done quite a number of things. The first Prime Minister of Singapore, who turned around Singapore, said very clearly, keep the system clean. And he was very firm about it. And that is what has taken Singapore very far. Zero tolerance to corruption.
Is it possible?
Allow me. And all other Asian countries talk of Korea, talk of Malaysia. And in fact, in Malaysia, the applicability of Sharia laws in punishing corruption is about death sentence if really you are implicated. The criminal justice systems in those jurisdictions work faster and actually punish. And that is why state resources are preserved and they are channeled and utilized for the good of the state. If you go to Malaysia, you will not get an insurance company dealing with medication. You will just walk to a dispensary, get treated, walk to a facility, get treated. That's how they work. And so therefore, corruption being an item of serious discussion at devolution conferences and in all other conferences is key. And it's not just restricted to Parliament. It is everywhere. And so for the good of the country, let's not talk about, in Kenya, you are talking about let us reduce corruption. But in jurisdictions that have developed and transformed faster, they're talking about criminalizing and punishing those involved in corruption. And that is what it is. There is no shortcut, and I think Kenya should lead the African continent, and the president should continue being firm to slay the dragon of corruption. Unless it is laid, it is going to work against many things in this country.
Is that possible?
And then we'll engage in poetic rhetorics about developing Kenya, about advancing devolution, because what is going on in devolved units, resources are shipped out of the counties, once it lands in the counties, to Nairobi and to other investments outside the country. And whereas devolution was supposed to attract and retain resources and transform the counties. So if we discuss the item of corruption, it is so extensive and it's a bad disease that must be criminalized and destroyed.
Can it be nipped in the bud, Barak? Because here we are with Dennis's, a good friend of 2025. She's been doling out reports and talking about the fact that money has disappeared. Take a pick. Take any sector. Take your pick. Money is disappearing in the billions. Well, I'm not going to use the word disappearing. Money is being taken. It's being stolen, and in the billions. And we are saying we want to slay corruption. The president comes out and he talks about, corruption at the committee level in Parliament and says, let's stop it. But there's this huge report, damning report by the Auditor General that we can actually do something about if we're serious about fighting corruption. Why don't we?
Well, thank you very much. First, I think we have criminalized corruption in the country. We have got laws about corruption or against corruption. We have got institutions that are charged with the responsibility of fighting corruption. What we haven't done is to stigmatize corruption. That even in the holy places, we receive the corrupt, we give them the high diocese to speak from. We are in a context where Parliament itself has been captured by State House. State House pointed out the way forward for Parliament, starting, in fact, in the previous regime, when members of Parliament began being whipped in State House and being told you're going to tow the straight and narrow, and being induced to do the will of the executive. So corruption should be deemed not just at the level of people receiving handouts. Corruption should be seen very broadly, even at the level of abdication of responsibility. That you have got a legislature that fails to keep the executive on its toes. It's abdication of duty and waiting for so-called orders from above. The president yesterday said that there will be no more resort to orders from above, and that everybody must keep to their square and do what is expected of them. One wants to believe that that begins with the legislature being allowed to undertake its duties and responsibilities without let or hindrance, because therein resides the biggest challenge, that the legislature has become a rubber stamp. With regard to the Auditor General, to the Office of Commissioner of Revenue Allocation, you have seen that whenever they issue their reports, they are upbraided by the legislature, they are upbraided by the executive, and that indeed we saw even in the previous regime, that when Dr. Eddie Oko was probing the Eurobond affair, he was taken to task by the president, who screamed at him in public, saying, huyu anataka ati kwenda America, ati he wants to go to talk to the World Bank. What? That's part of his duties and responsibilities. So the executive must begin by removing the log in its eye, because in the end, the buck rests there.
With the president.
My question, Sosion, you've been a member of parliament, and looking at what the president was saying, this is a devolution conference, and among many other things that he said, this then was picked as a key highlight. And he went into some detail around this issue of corruption, especially from the Houses of Parliament. And it appears it's the weakest link then, according to him. And he's been a member of parliament for, what, over 15 years? The president? You've been in parliament. Is this a statement of fact? Because for the longest time we've had MPs who will come and say, this goes on in parliament.
Dennis, when a president makes a statement, it is not propaganda, because a president has got state infrastructure of getting accurate information of what happens in all sections of government. I want to take it that it is true. And because Parliament has got a major role to do in terms of oversight, to implement audit reports, to interrogate various government agencies, to check on the executive, and generate reports and recommendations. It has a firm oversight role. But then, if a culture of inducing committees monetarily is in place, then that is a threat to the whole overall situation of governance in the country.
You say as though you didn't know such things happen.
No, I don't sit in that place at the moment.
Neither do I. Neither do I,
was-
and neither do we. But it's evident.
My question was, you've been in that space. You've been in committees in parliament. And to be specific, he was addressing the question of people who are then called to account are being forced or pushed to offer bribes so that they can actually do good reports or look the other way. My question was, from what the president was saying, is that what goes on in parliament?
And I have said, when the president states...
Not when the president said, I'm asking
then
you.
Then it is true, it goes on. That's a fact. Why do we debate what has been stated? It's a fact. The problem with us Kenyans is that when the truth is placed on the table, we go back again and ask whether it is a truth. That is not how to work, and that is not how to how to move the country forward. Let's agree there's a problem. It does happen, and that must stop.
Okay.
It has to be stopped. And so committees of parliament and parliament must do its work efficiently and effectively. For example, the reports of the Auditor General. Those are not mere public relation reports. They are reports that indicate gaps in many areas of financial management in this country. So it's upon Parliament to utilize those reports and generate the correct recommendations without exceptions. But if some committees are induced, I can see Barack is looking at me. It is true. People are
It
bought
is true
in
that
this
they're
country.
induced and they're bought. Does
People are bought in this country.
does Parliament, and I need to
Those
ask this
who don't
question,
have the spines to stand up to the calling of
are bought?
to the call of duties
Okay.
are cheaply bought, and that's the problem we have in this country. So
Dr.
that even
Muluka, I
when
have to bring
Barack talks
this here.
about
I'm
general corruption as attitude and behavior, we must taxonomize and classify different modes of corruption.
Let's
There's
hold on
open
to that
stealing,
point at this
there's
point.
open bribery, there is abuse of office. It's broad and broad.
Let's hold on
so
to that point for a minute, Bwana Sossion, because I want to say one of the things that you had mentioned is that Parliament is responsible for checking the executive. Has Parliament checked the executive in any way, shape, or form that we can see and it is clear?
We stated at the very outset that Parliament is whipped in State House. The executive begins in State House. If it's being whipped in State House, and we have seen His Excellency the President saying things like, I would like to see who is going to vote differently, and there will be consequences. It is clear that then the legislature is not checking the executive. But in plain black and white, the committees are extortion forums that when they hear something has happened, a plane has crashed somewhere in Juja, or when they hear there's been an accident somewhere, or when they hear that there are some people scanning the eyes of Kenyans at Kenyatta International Convention Center, then the committee quickly will send letters to the cabinet secretaries, appear on such and such a day before such and such a committee to respond to this and that. And before you know, the chair of that committee is pacing up and down in the corridors of the ministries. That is what the president is talking about. And they're going there specifically to collect protection fees. So that is what Parliament has begun. And I have got proof, Simon. No, Simon is your brother, Wilson.
It's a family affair, but okay.
we are friends. We are good family friends.
I've got not just evidence, but proof that they will come around to solicit protection fees. And if you do not pay protection fees, then you are in the crucible. So it is true. My only beef with this is that the executive itself has been complicit in the corruption of the legislature. But that's an open secret.
Whereas that is also very debatable. You see, the executive has...
Which part is debatable?
You know, when you talk of
Barack,
Barack, when you say the executive is an accomplished, that's a general blanket statement. Parliament has majority and minority. And the majority has always, by practice, produced a president. And the majority leader prosecutes government agenda in the House. So Parliament is still linked to the executive in terms insofar as government legislation and programs. But to say the executive is
but Wilson,
is chaperoning Parliament to do certain things.
Wilson, you know that we had a one-party state.
I don't think
we had a one-party state.
Let us look at these three different arms of government. the executive, judiciary, and legislature. They are independent insofar as
On paper.
operations.
On paper.
Independent.
On paper.
It should not be on paper insofar as operation. And I've sat in that parliament. There are many committees that are independent in the operation, and they do a fantastic job. And in terms of oversight role, Parliament should not be a sleeping dog.
Indeed.
It can't.
It
because
is.
it looks like that is what you're almost
No.
insinuating.
It is.
That, of course, if there is a
Wilson,
plane crash,
you are talking
then they
about
write a letter.
You are talking
and
about
then they pace up in the corridors
theoretical
asking for
as
handouts.
opposed
They
to
should
the
write
practice.
a letter and do a proper job of investigating and give recommendations that are shared with the public.
Who should write a
for
letter?
the public of good?
Who?
The committees of the House.
The same committees
Of
of the
course.
House who are being accused of taking bribes
No.
in order to get things done
You
should
know,
write
my-
a letter
you-
to the
you-
House?
You know, my sister, when there is an allegation and an accusation, it doesn't mean that
Has the
Parliament has
president
been
made
condemned and it should
an
stop
allegation?
working. No.
Has he spread propaganda?
Who?
The
The
president.
president has not. The president has made a solid statement based on facts.
So it is true
That's a
what
fact.
we are saying.
That's a fact.
that,
No, you as allegations. The president said
Saying
so.
the
But
exact
I'm saying the same thing.
Saying the same thing.
It's an
So,
allegation when I say
let's be
it.
cl- hold
but
on,
the
sorry.
fact when
You are
the president
twisting it
says
to
the same
accuse.
thing.
You are twisting
Wilson,
it
it
to
was
accuse
very
the executive.
clear.
But I want us to be
Just a minute.
straightforward.
Just a minute. The president
Straightforward.
said very clearly, in no uncertain terms, that there is bribery on a grand scale that is taking place at the committees of Parliament. That's happening.
And he called on
And
the
he
speaker.
said
He called
that-
on the speaker.
Allow me to finish so that I can ask you the question. He said that something must be done about this beyond just something being done. He said it must stop. It must stop.
Yes, and
So
indeed it must stop.
So in this case, when it is being said that grand corruption and extortion is happening at the committee levels and it must stop, what's the difference in the two statements?
You didn't get what Muleka was saying.
I
He was
got it
saying
very clearly.
The directives of corruption and whatnot comes from
No.
the executive.
That's
That is all
putting
Muleka.
words in
Dr.
my mouth.
Muluka, what did you
What
say?
I've said is that the executive is also complicit in corrupting the legislature. When they are whipped from State House, that is corruption. And they don't just walk out of State House empty-handed. The State House is a gravy train. They are grist, then they get to Parliament. And even if it's just a threat and an intimidation to the effect that I would like to see who will vote against this bill, and that is on record, then that is already a form of corruption. But
mobilizing,
what we would
mobilizing
like,
to support a bill is a different thing.
what we'd
a
like,
political right, a political
you
fact
know,
that Dr. Muluka must
Mwalimu, when you
understand.
talk, I listen. And you know, we teachers, we like to allow someone to speak, then we come in. We teachers, you and I are teachers. Yeah. So you see, we had our one-party regime under President Kenyatta, under President Moi. On no single occasion did these two presidents whip Parliament from State House. When you whip Parliament from State House, you intimidate the members, and therefore they are not able to go to Parliament and do the business that they're supposed to do, especially oversight. And that oversight failure flows into legislation where they enact some flawed laws because they are afraid. So that in itself is a form of corruption. But I'm not saying that His Excellency the President is telling members of the committees that go and take money from... No. And I know that Wilson sometimes can be very cheeky. As he told you, he's my friend. I know him. He can be very cheeky and he can twist what I'm saying. Yes.
No,
Mwalimu.
I really don't. You see, I want us to be straight on what the president has stated, and we promote an agenda that is going to help us eliminate corruption, not just in Parliament, but everywhere. The problem we have is that we try to mix a very serious agenda with our political feelings and political beliefs, and that is where we lose the plot, and we lose the point. If from the executive arm is pushing an agenda in Parliament through the majority leader or a majority office. It's possible to lobby. It has happened. Lobby for a bill, but that does not compel members of Parliament to vote the way they've been lobbied. Members of Parliament can still vote with their conscience, and that has happened in the past. And that does not mean committees then should. There's a point that Barack talked about, and it can be complaint from some quarters of the executive who don't want to be checked. They don't. Some sections of the executive don't like being invited to Parliament because Parliament is an open forum.
Like which ones?
Yeah,
like which ones?
No, I can't say.
Malimo, you know that there are protection fees and collectors.
So, Parliament. This is how Parliament should operate. Committees of the House. This is how Parliament should operate. Invite any state agency, government office that there's a question to answer on anything.
So, sorry, Sassoon, I'm trying to get you.
And I'm sure you've seen.
Sorry, I'm trying to get your train of thought. You've just said that there are those who could be complaining. Are you referring to the specific cabinet secretaries, for example, who are complaining to the head of state because they don't necessarily
No. I'm not linking that. I'm not linking that to the head of state. I think
I'm saying cabinet secretaries who are complaining that they're being asked for bribes because they just don't want to appear
I can't answer that because I don't have an account. But this is what I'm saying: that some government officers may not like being scrutinized in Parliament. That's a fact. But then Parliament should do its work. Summon any state agency without asking for a bribe. That's what the president is saying. Do your work without asking for a bribe. And so this narrative of members of Parliament pacing up and down should die out. Parliament should do its work judiciously, expeditiously, and promptly, and deliver reports for the public. That is what it is supposed to do.
Barack, that's essentially what is supposed to happen.
Without
yes,
provoking inducement so that they can doctor the reports to a certain direction.
Now,
because
if
we have it working in that
teachers.
direction,
Yes.
if we have it working in that direction, that I summon Kenya Airports Authority and make very hard demands, harsh demands, and then on the back room ask them to put something on the table. That is not right. Ask legitimate questions, get legitimate answers, generate a good report, table it before the House with recommendation. That is how to work.
In theory, that's essentially what's
not
supposed
in theory,
to happen.
in practice. That is how it should work.
In theory and in practice, that is what's
and
supposed to
many
happen.
committees are doing that in practice.
Okay, you're both teachers. Words are very powerful and words have meaning. As a journalist, I listen to words. I'm trained to listen to what you're not saying and what you're saying. Essentially what the president said, he said, Mr. Speaker, and I quote him, "It cannot continue to be business as usual. It is not possible that Parliament committees continue to demand to be bribed or be paid for them to write reports or to look the other way on what is happening in either the national government or the counties." This is the head of state who said this statement. Now, if we just look at that first sentence alone and dissect that for a moment, it cannot continue to be business as usual. There is an admission then, if I'm to extrapolate that statement, it has been business as usual, that this is what goes on for a report to be written. And these reports are in the public interest. Whether it's governors, whether it's cabinet secretaries who appear before these committees, reports are then presented, reports are then tabled in the House, there's a debate in the House, and this is all in the public interest. So what the president is saying, this is what essentially has been going on, but now it can't be business as usual. Is it a case where you've spoiled this child and now they've grown to be so arrogant, they're demanding more of what you're reading beyond this statement?
First, when you talk about words, Wilson is speaking and at the same time he's eating his own words. And he's very good with words, modal verbs, should, ought to, must. So he's running away from the reality on the one hand, and going back to embrace the reality on the other hand, and somewhere in the middle, therefore, giving a prescription. The prescription he's giving is that Parliament should. He's not saying Parliament is doing this, is doing that. He's saying should.
I can't say it's because I don't sit in Parliament.
You have sat there,
true.
Wilson.
I don't sit now.
And you know the truth that there are protection fees collectors. I've known you to be very.
For my 5 years, I never saw
intrepid.
that one. Very honestly,
Yeah? But
I can swear by the Bible,
very
I
good.
never saw such for 5 years.
Who uses the Bible in vain shall, of course, face the consequences. I leave that there. But the point of the matter is that the president is not making an allegation. I think that one we have agreed.
Correct.
We have also agreed that the president is not a propagandist.
Correct.
And therefore, being a consumer of intelligence, being a consumer of reports from his cabinet secretaries, from his PSS, he is aware that MPs are collecting these protection fees. And he's taking this opportunity to speak to them through the speaker and saying to the speaker that this must stop. It is known that members of parliament work most of the time through committees. And my good brother Wilson here has been a member of committees. He sat on good committees where they did not collect protection fees. But we have had, in fact, since the days when President Mwai Kibaki was in State House, that money was changing hands even from the washrooms. We remember the tobacco bill during the President Mwai Kibaki regime. We remember things to do with beer production company that came under a lot of assault by the legislature, by the executive, and it became public that MPs were receiving money to take decisions in a particular way. So I think that if we are going to sweep these things under the carpet, then we are not going to solve the problem. Let's face it squarely and accept that there is this cancer. And I agree with my brother, Mwalimu Wilson Sosion, that there is need to criminalize, although, as I said, we have criminalized. What we haven't done is to stigmatize that somebody who is corrupt, who is a thief, will still come where we are, and we will greet him with a supported hand. We will give him or her the front rows in the church, and we will even invite him to the dais to address the congregation. And at the end of it all, we expect money. I was once in a forum where I heard a bishop say that there is no money that he cannot cleanse. Stigma is what is missing.
So we criminalize and stigmatize.
Yes.
Escalating the statement of the president, I wish to state that a member of parliament is given a title, honorable. And being honorable means you must operate with integrity. So if there is an institution that we shouldn't hear anything near corruption or compromise for whatever reason, then it is parliament.
Absolutely.
That's a fact. And so the beginning of the end of corruption begins in parliament.
Is it the people or is it the system?
By the manner. Forget about the system. First of all, you can have the system, but you have the wrong people doing the wrong things against what is established in the system. We can have legislation, but if we don't have leaders who are intentional and who operate with integrity, then we'll continue having this mess.
Allow
going
me
on.
to pick on that
And
just a
so,
little bit, because we
therefore,
have new people who get into Parliament but seem to then imbibe this same behavior over time.
And
The
that
number of people who are in the 13th Parliament, though the numbers may be the same, is a different kind of there's different people. There are some people who are serving second, third terms, and there are some people who are serving first terms, which is why I'm asking, is this a systemic issue that you may be okay on the outside, but when you get into Parliament, something happens? Is that what we're dealing with here?
not necessarily the personality of an individual. You can't change it overnight. The character of a person is formalized over time. If somebody is inherently corrupt, even if you take him to church, to pontificate in church, he will still remain very corrupt. And that is why men and women who are elected to leadership must really live up
But
to
Wilson,
must live up to allow me.
this thing is
Allow me,
systemic.
allow
eh?
me, allow me.
Just a footnote, Mwalimu. A footnote. This thing is systemic, and it spills outside Parliament because we, the people, are at the heart of the whole thing. These people whom we elect, first we don't elect them if they have not paid us. It's a footnote. I will elaborate.
Yeah. Your footnote appreciated, because then we are opening and looking at it broadly. Dr. Muluka here is reminding me that they bribe their way to be elected at the ballot. That is exactly what happens. So that then the buck stops where?
With me?
The buck stops with the voters. It stops
With
with the
me,
people.
the
And
voter.
It stops. It is the type of democracy that we have, that for me to be elected, I must buy my way. And that fundamentally is wrong. And when we got the new constitution, we expected a new brand and approach to politics, even in the process of identifying leaders. I remember one time somebody was telling me, you're a very good trade unionist, but you fit in the American setting and the rest. You don't fit in these other settings where you must accept to do A, B, C, D. And I was wondering, Kenya is a good country. Africa is a good continent. It deserves the best. And the people of Africa also deserve the best. The culture of inducing voters to vote for you
Yes.
using money
Yes.
has generated a culture of bad leaders.
So it is a culture. It is systemic.
And therefore, it is both the products of that process of election and the products themselves, who are the leaders, and the system itself. So both. And this, we've got to deal with it differently. But nevertheless, there are laws to regulate and to guide. And that is why I still insist, until when this country accepts to criminalize and fight corruption very deliberately, we will continue staying in circles and in circles and going round and round without finding a solution.
Do the institutions that have been given the mandate to actually do this then actually have the power? On this very show, in the seat where you're seated, the Member of Parliament for Suba North constituency said to us, she said, you know what? Money changes hands. It does. If we are going to sit and pretend that it doesn't, we're doing ourselves a disservice and an injustice. Money changes hands. It happens in order for people to pass laws, in order for people to institute laws. I don't believe she was speaking out of imagination. She was there. She is there in those forums. And so here we are talking about getting rid of corruption as a way on towards proper development. But are the organs that have been given the mandate, been given the twin power to actually do this?
I think the organs, if you talk about the EACC, you talk about DCI, you talk about the police broadly, they are doing their work. And their work stops where it should stop. It stops where they take the matters to the judiciary. You know, we have said that the challenge here is systemic, and it cuts across institutions. You go to the judiciary and you will find that when there's a very good, big corruption case, somebody is also waiting for it. And we've seen lots of these cases getting into the judiciary. We never get to learn about the end of them. They seem to disappear. They are like the river Wasongiro, which we used to read about in geography. It just ends up in some swamp, some Lorian swamp somewhere, that you cannot say that this is the mouth of this particular matter of corruption. So until the day we rediscover lost values, and they are lost everywhere. They are lost in the academy because there's corruption there. You are hearing about marks for sex. We are hearing about people who are getting degrees that they have not actually earned or been examined. You are hearing of marks for sex or sex for marks. And even in Parliament, we have had women talking about the need to grant men certain favors before certain things can be done. So we are a sick nation. We must accept that. The voter out there is waiting for the MP over the weekend. If you have not been turning up in your constituency over the weekend, the voters begin complaining. They're saying this person doesn't come to see us. Then this person will not have another term. So the MP has got to look for the money. I'm not justifying it. I'm only explaining, giving the anatomy. The MP has got to look for the money to go and take to the voter over the weekend. When the MP turns up at the funeral, they say, oh, there he comes. There. Then they're told to queue. And they're given 100 or 200 shillings each. It is a serious cancer that is sunk everywhere in the Kenyan society.
And as we wrap up, how do we deal with it?
About the values,
let me ask a question, Session, as we wrap up. How do we deal with it? How do we deal with this issue? Because clearly it's eaten away into society, and we have the president standing on a national podium saying that it must be dealt with.
It must be dealt with. We must face it. If indeed there is definite and clear breakdown of values and value systems in society, leaders cannot talk to their people. Instead of talking to them, they're asking you to give them money. It's a height of serious breakdown of values and value system. We must revisit not just system, but the architecture and infrastructure of the criminal justice system in dealing with corruption. That one, and we must be very decisive. Countries that have done so have been very decisive. Why do we take centuries to punish corruption? Once it gets to the judicial process, then it should be expedited. In some countries, if you are arrested for corruption at 9, you are processed expeditiously by 4 p.m. Spice of the criminal justice system of dealing with corruption will change it. That is number one. Number two, through intensive civic education and curricula of whatever nature, we can restore our lost values and value system. And really it can change. It's difficult, it's not easy. But all battles in the world have been won through intensive civic education. And there must be great teachers, resilient enough to deliver such messages like Dr. Barak Muluka and myself and the rest. But we need an intentional governance system that is determined to put in place a working architecture of fighting corruption of all forms in all spheres of our governance. Not just Parliament, but everywhere.
Indeed.
Everywhere.
Dr. Barak Muluka and Wilson Session. An hour goes very quickly, but these issues are grand. They're huge. We need to keep talking about them. And we want to thank you for being able to foster that conversation with us this morning. Good morning.
Thank you.
It's 8:01.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Lines